Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode all about astrology. So, we've got a full moon in Aquarius coming up. Very dynamic, very exciting, full of turning points and decisions this particular moment in time. So, even though I've already done a video about the full moon, an episode if you're watching on a podcast app, I've already done an episode about this full moon in Aquarius, full of data and details. And there's a lot of astrology surrounding this particular full moon. This time around, though, I'm going to be doing horoscopes for all of the 12 signs. So you can just jump to your sign if you wish and get a bit of, what's this going to be all about for me potentially. So before I get into that, there's just a few ideas about this full moon in summary. It's in the fixed sign of Aquarius. So there is this sense that the Aquarius part of your birth chart is going to be spotlighted and illuminated, and it's at just nearly 17 degrees of Aquarius. So it is at one of the what's called a world point, and so that is 15 degrees of the fixed signs. So this particular one in Aquarius symbolizes the sun is in Leo, moon is in Aquarius. It's symbolizing of the time between solstices and equinoxes. So, collectively, I think we will see a lot of dramatic and fast paced change, things moving forward very quickly. Even though Aquarius is fixed, it's air, and air moves quickly. Ideas can spread really quickly. We see that on the internet. We also have Mercury at the station direct degree, which is 4 degrees of Leo. So this full moon is kind of ushering the way of the Mercury retrograde finally being over, which for many of you, I'm sure, will be welcome news. But with that in mind, we've got the fixed full moon, Mercury fixed in Leo and not moving. So there is this kind of skippy in the headlight moment, this deer in the headlight moment that a choice, a decision needs to be made. And it might be one that you've not been wanting to make, or it's been rattling in the back of your mind and thinking, yeah, I'll get there eventually. That is possible. Now, the ruler of this full moon is Saturn, and Saturn is just about to move back into Pisces in the very beginning of September. Then that will kick off the eclipse season. So, the idea of the fixed, the Skippy in the headlights, that's kangaroos for those who may not know, we nickname them Skippy. Um, there's that sort of moment where we just have to pause, look, and sort of assess the scene before we make decisions and things really change up. But this particular full moon has Mars newly in Libra in direct opposition to the full moon ruler. So this brings a level of frustration, of tension, of trying to find compromise with maybe another party or another situation that doesn't want compromise. There's this battle of wills, maybe having to overcome a great obstacle. We have a full moon in fixed signs plus a malefic standoff. It's certainly not going to be an easy handful of days coming up. That being said, though, we get through that. And then, of course, Mercury will station direct. So that might bring revelations, insights, new ideas coming through, those types of ideas where you think to yourself, why didn't I think about that sooner? Or, why did it take so long? And then, of course, some of the nicest astrology in the form of Venus and Jupiter making their conjunction at 14 degrees of Cancer. So even though this next handful of days, could be a little crispy, I know I use that adjective a lot, but it's almost this idea that's the energy of Mars and Saturn in their opposition. Um, I have a very, very tight Mars Saturn square in my birth chart. So, sort of a similar energy. And yeah, I love heavy metal. Yeah, I love powerlifting. Not that I technically do powerlifting anymore, but it's that idea of something hard and overcoming that. That's just an example. Obviously, it doesn't have to be about metal of any kind, but it's the idea that, when you push through something, whether you push back on authority, you push back on someone saying this or saying that, you push back on a lie, you push back on someone or something that has some kind of power or authority over you, or even you push back against your own limitations, your self-imposed limitations, you overcome that obstacle, and there's that great surge of energy and motivation. And that's where the good stuff lies, the sort of serotonin that we might expect next week with Venus and Jupiter. So even though you might be experiencing some tension right now, maybe you're thinking, oh, this full moon is going to be awful for me, there's going to be some silver linings and good stuff at the end of it. So, before I get into the horoscopes, I have created for you a free guide over on my website. So, there's a link down in the show notes below. Um, or you just go to my website, which is my name, CassandraTindall.com, and a pop-up will come on the screen. You put in your email address and you'll get to download a free guide. And so basically that's outlining some of the big energies of 2025, the rest of the year. So you've got the dates and the details of those. So you can download it, print it out, and just use that as a little bit of a navigation tool to help you through the rest of the year. If you like these kind of videos, if you like this podcast, do the things that we do on social media. And I would love for you to subscribe to the channel, and then you'll be able to stay abreast of additional postings here, which I try and do once a week. All right, so that's enough about all that. Let's jump into the juice and we'll go straight into these horoscopes. So we're going to do all the 12 signs here for this full moon. So obviously, Aries is going to be the full moon itself. So if you're Aries or Aries rising, the full moon itself is happening in your 11th house. So we're talking friendships, we're talking groups, communities, and networks. Those can be in real life. They can also be on the online situation. So whether it's your friends, connections on social media, maybe within your work, your industry, your communities around that. The 11th house also speaks to your hopes, your dreams, and what you really want, what you aspire to, what you pray for, what you hope for, kind of thing. The ruler of this lunation for you, if you're Aries, Aries rising, is in the first house. And so, my question to you is, are you being an agent for your own luck, your own opportunities, or are you blocking yourself in some way? The ruler of this full moon, sorry, not the ruler of this full moon, the ruler of you, Mars, has just moved into the seventh house. So this is kind of setting off everything. We've got Mars, of course, is setting off the Mercury station, it's setting off Uranus, it's setting off the Saturn Neptune piece, and of course, Pluto. So, again, the idea of you being the agent for everything right now. And this might be about you overcoming some of your limitations or obstacles, whether those are real or perceived. Maybe there's a realization in order to achieve your hopes and your dreams for the future, you have to have discipline, you have to have maturity, you have to balance your desires or your obligations with what other people may want or need from you as well. So there's a real kind of me versus we dynamic, and generally the energy of Aries is kind of in and amongst it. In some ways, I feel like the moment of this full moon is about you maybe saying, maybe not no, but not yet. Let me think about this. Of course, the Mercury station, let me figure things out. Um, it's about the sense of self ultimately. And Saturn is going to leave your first house for a little while, but it's really going to come back. And so the events of this full moon is probably going to ricochet a little bit for some time until Saturn comes back to your sign in February. So really, it's this idea about, are you chasing the right people? Are you in company with the right people? Obviously, friendships and things of that nature have probably undergone some change, maybe not transformation just yet, but maybe you have noticed things have really shifted in your social or professional circles. Saturn's coming in and really helping you get aligned forming those boundaries, committing to the things that matter, and maybe learning to cut out some people that may not be aligned with you anymore. And those sometimes are not easy choices to make. But I think that will be the flavor of the full moon. There's a lot of energy here around you and other people in this full moon. So it may not be the full moon to kind of go all in and, Aries style, but kind of, yeah, just observe, watch what's going on with other people and sort of just think to yourself, is that what I want? Is that whom I want to be with or associated with? And things of that nature. Because, of course, Neptune's in the mix, so it may be a little foggy, confusing, or uncertain. So there could be this dynamic of what you think things are and what they actually are may not be all the same thing. So if you're Taurus rising or Sun's in Taurus, this is going to be really a career lunation for you. So we're talking career, your overall life direction. So, career for some people, we kind of default to the idea of career when we talk about the 10th house, but it really is about your life direction. And fortunately, unfortunately, these days, what we do from a professional standpoint does tend to dominate our lives. But for a lot of people out there, they just have a job, it pays the bills, it makes ends meet, what have you. But this full moon might be asking the question for you, even if I do just have a job, even if I am just paying the bills, is my life still trending in the direction that I really want it to go? This full moon is going to set off some of those big existential questions. And the reason I say that is because the ruler of the full moon is in the 12th house. So it's that sort of shadowy part of the horoscope where you might feel a little bit isolated. You might feel, these sort of big weighty questions in the background. But the key feature of this is that Uranus is going to, won't be long before Uranus is back in your sign, where you get this last hurrah of authenticity, of seeking freedom, of wanting to do you, and still just maybe in a process of discovering what that really is. Now, that tension that we will find with the full moon because the ruler is opposing Mars. And so that might be a little bit about for you this dichotomy between maybe what you are doing versus what you think you should be doing or what you'd rather be doing on a longer term situation. Mars in the sixth does, so it's going to be there for about 7 weeks. This is going to bring a punishing pace. Your schedule's going to be busy. Your just general daily runnings will be busy. It might be about tackling some health obstacles as well, quite possibly for some. But it also might be about, you slashing some unnecessary obligations or responsibilities to do with your career. Are you or your overall direction? Are you saying yes to things that you might be better off saying no to? Are you saying yes to things that are actually preventing you from being free or finding that authenticity in your life direction or your career? Having the malefics in these parts of the chart, I mean, they're both in their houses of joy and they're obviously making some mutual reception between each other. But this could be a really good time for you to kind of think about getting some clarity, I should say, about your career and the problems in your life, whether those are real, imagined, maybe you're stressed over something. Maybe you need to really kind of change the way you think about some of the problems that you've got going on. So a lot of the time, it's not the problem itself, it's the way that we think about the problem that is bigger than the problem itself. And with the station of Mercury at the very foundation of your chart, can you really change the foundation of the way you think? And I feel that for a lot of Taurus risings, there is this foundational shakeup and having to maybe slash away some obligations. And those obligations, they might have something to do with family. It might be about relationships. It might be about, are you just doing the motions, but not really going where you want to get to? So it could be about rewriting some of the mental programming that you've got going on in a loop in your mind, and taking different courses of action. And that's Mars in the sixth. What do you need to do over the next 6 weeks to overcome some career obstacles, some um, life direction obstacles? So when Uranus comes back into Taurus, you can actually grasp those opportunities that will come back for you to be authentic, to have the freedom that you want, to have to show up as who you are or who you've become, as opposed to who you used to be or who you should be. So hopefully that's helpful for some of the Taurus risings out there. Now we've got Gemini rising. So for Gemini risings, this is a lot going on for you as well. A full moon in Aquarius is really going to, this is kind of the world is your oyster transit. That's what I think about with the ninth house. It's the spotlight of the moon is showing you all of the big possibilities, whether it's travel, whether it's study, whether it's spirituality and religion, whether it is just wanting to see what the world has to offer you, whether that is literal through travel, whether it's metaphorical through study, or changing your worldview, your perspectives on life, and finding meaning in that. Now, the ruler of this full moon is in the 11th. So there may be friends involved here, or your groups or communities that are a part of your influence here, or your connections to those potentialities. I'll give you an example. I'm Gemini rising, and I was sort of thinking about this past week has been more social for me than not. And then I thought to myself, okay, so who are the people I've been social with? A friend from the US has stayed with me. Friends from Israel I caught up with on the weekend. And a friend from England. So very international flavor. So sometimes it can just be that sort of simple. So, and you might also want to consider with the Neptune and Saturn there, committing to your dreams for the future. What are your aspirations for the future? What are you striving for in your life that is a sense of meaning and purpose? And with Saturn in Aries, with Neptune, for some Gemini risings, it might be really committing to that dream. Maybe you really want to study that thing. Maybe you really want to go to that place. Maybe you want to, maybe you're discovering that through the influence of your friends or the groups you're associated with in real life or online, that it is shaping or transforming or shifting the way you view certain things about life. Now, Mars is also in opposition to that. So there's a lot of creative energy coming through here, taking action, maybe the stoking of a previous dream or aspiration or a creative project is really possible here for Gemini risings. Also, too, your ruling planet, Mercury, is stationing. And so this might be a bit of a turning point for you to make some decisions. It could be about picking up an old project. It could be a writing project. It's this sort of aligning long-term, short-term goals a little bit with Mars and Saturn. And then thinking about, well, what do I have to do on a daily basis to make those happen? It might be having to shift up some of your daily routines to fit in something that will be aligned with your future vision for yourself. So I think it is, uh, if I was to sum it up for Gemini risings, it's take a real good look at what you're doing at a daily basis And is that aligning with your vision for the future? As an example, right? If you want to write a book, don't sit on the couch and watch Netflix every night. Align your small daily actions with your big picture dreams for the future and ensure that you have your friends, your groups, the communities, the people that you're rubbing shoulders with the most are equally invested or aligned with that vision, that dream, or that goal that you've got. So, the idea of what is it, the five people you spend the most time with will kind of influence your direction. So it's a little bit of that as well. Okay, so now we're moving on to Cancer. So Cancer risings. This is going to be a big one for you because this is a full moon. Obviously, you're very influenced by the moon, and we're also moving in the not too distant future into eclipse season. But getting ahead of myself a little there. So this full moon, Aquarius, eighth house for you. So the key feature here with this area of your life getting spotlighted is obviously, finances, money, the entanglements you share with other people. Those entanglements can be emotional, it can be financial, it can be energetic, sexual, spirit, like whoever you're connected to in whatever way, essentially. Now, the ruler of this full moon is Saturn, and it's positioned in your career house, your overall life direction. So this could take a few interpretations. The most obvious one to me would be, okay, let's say, for example, you have a career or a professional or a life direction dream for your future. Now, that might be, I want to reach a management role, or I would like to, at some point in my life, be XYZ in, as far as your career is concerned, right? But are you earning the money that is going to allow you to get there? Does your current level of employment provide you with the income that you need that can secure your future? These are some ideas here. On the flip side, it could be, are you sharing energy with someone? And that could be, whichever form you want to take that. And is that in alignment with how you want to be? I'll give you an example. Are you kind of just leaking energy in ways that, maybe say, for example, you really want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to have that kind of life, right? But are you just kind of, dicking around thinking, yeah, I'll find my future spouse, but, kind of just spending time with whomever crosses your path. So this might be that clear point where you recognize that what I'm doing, whether it's in the practical sense, whether it's in the energetic sense, and is it aligned with the big picture vision for my life? So this could also be about with Mars opposition, some family energy there, whether it's family, whether it's your living situation. This could be this realization that you could be in a location that isn't working for you and you might need to move. Maybe you, in order to make the money you want to earn, the realization is, well, I've got to change. I've got to either change jobs, change where I live, or you move for financial reasons. Maybe your city's become too expensive and you might figure, well, maybe I have to really consider relocating. Many, many options there. Um, the thing here, though, if you're a Cancer or Cancer rising, is that you do have benefics in your birth chart. Now, sometimes with benefics, they happen and they're nice, but nothing happens. So the grittiness of this full moon and the opposition between the full moon ruler, Saturn, and Mars in angular houses, there's almost this agitation. I need to take action. I need to do something. I can't just, laze back with the opulence of Venus and Jupiter in my first house, drink the wine and eat the cheese and wait for red carpet to roll out for me. This full moon's not about that. It might be about addressing some fears and phobias, getting very clear about what you want for the future and addressing the blocks within you that are preventing you from, taking those real meaningful steps where that beautiful road can actually rise up to meet you while you have benefic energy in your sign. And your Jupiter's going to be there till the end of June next year. So you've got a while of this. So don't take it for granted. It will go really, really quickly if you are just waiting for your ship to come in without any grind or effort along with it. Okay, Leo. This is a big one because this is the annual full moon of relationships for you. Um, Interestingly, the ruler of this full moon, which is Saturn, is positioned in your ninth house. This feels it's almost a classic or a quintessential situation where there's a long distance situation there, maybe a online romance, or your beau is out of town or overseas, wherever. But this can also mean when the ruler is in your when the ruler of the seventh is in the ninth under this full moon, it could also help you get unstuck from a stagnant or a stale relationship situation. Because Saturn and Neptune in your ninth house can help you commit to a relationship dream for the future. So, whether you're partnered or single, it kind of doesn't matter. If you're single, obviously you want to hold that vision or hold that dream of what your ideal relationship situation is and move in alignment with that. If you are stuck in a situation where it's almost so predictable, pass me the remote, dear kind of stuff. Well, this might be the time to really shake things up and create some goals, some partnership goals, some dreams for the future, commit to something and, commit to an ideal or get on board with whether it's travel plans or maybe you want to learn or share something together. It can be really exciting, but if you've been too stuck in the details or too stuck in the nitty-gritty of a situation with Mercury retrograde in your first house, this lunation just can help you um, eh, focus on the big picture. You know, a bad day doesn't have to equal a bad week, or a bad email in the morning doesn't have to equal a bad day, kind of thing. So, if you've been in a bit of a rough patch personally or in a relationship situation, it doesn't have to mean that everything is doomed, kind of thing. So, again, the third house will feature Mars. So, Mars newly in Libra. And of course, Mars is opposing the ruler of this full moon. Change the daily habits, change the rhythms. If you have, Tuesday night is Netflix night, go out for dinner or whatever the case may be. So you can keep relationships alive and aligned by adding a little bit of excitement into things that might feel a little bit mundane or boring for you. Maybe it's about adding a level of, spirituality to the relationship in the sense of having a core set of values or meaning that the relationship moves towards. And that can help sort of keep you on the path. For some couples, it means that they're always planning their next trip. They're having a cruise or they're going to go overseas or they're going to spend, 3 weeks caravanning around. And that's kind of the common vision of something that they both enjoy together. This could be um, almost a signature of counseling and finding that common goal or that common vision for you as a couple. Maybe adding some kind of magic or spiritual or even religious components to back into the relationship, because the relationship's going through a change and transformation process with Pluto, and then of course with the moon setting all that off, kind of throwing light into the ninth house. It is sort of, what's the big dream, what's the big vision, what are the aspirations for this relationship. The benefic energy is very hidden for Leo risings at this point in time. So it is just a bit of a grind it out type of thing. The Mercury station in the first house, this could also mean you getting very honest about yourself, what you have to offer, what you're not prepared to offer, who you are, who you might be becoming, and communicate that. If you're kind of overthinking the details, overthinking too much, this full moon, I feel that there's going to be a lot riding on what you either do or don't say, or do or don't do. So there is this sense of kind of just let this full moon happen, let the dust settle, and then take things from there. So it's definitely a big weekend if you are a Leo rising. Okay, so we're moving on to Virgo now. So Virgo energy, radio. So we're looking at the full moon is happening in your sixth house. So if we go for the real pure energy of Virgo, Virgo loves to be of service, Virgo loves to help. It's the first, the energy is the first person to put their hand up and say, I'll do this, I'll fix this problem, I'll fix that issue. And so there might be a propensity with this full moon to do that. Maybe it's helping others, troubleshooting problems, realizing that there's a health issue that might need some tweaking. So, whether you need to just tighten up your diet, your exercise regime, maybe there's some things you need to eliminate from that diet. Also, too, this is the house of work. And so this full moon might just shine light that, stuff still has to get done, regardless of our feelings sometimes, regardless of what we want. It reminds me of a conversation I had with my son a while ago now, maybe a couple of years, and he was very he was very disappointed to hear that for all of Elon Musk's money, he still has to brush his teeth every day. That's what I told him. He can have all the helpers and all the paid help in the world, but we all got to take responsibility for our own teeth. So there's going to be a level of something here you just have to do, like it or lump it. But there's that sense too that maybe something has to give here with the energy of this full moon. Your ruling planet is Mercury, and there might be something that you have to rethink the way you're thinking about your problems. The 6th and the 12th are very much about the problems we have in life. Some of the problems we can see, yeah, my teeth are dirty, I need to clean them. And then there's the problems that we can't see, and that can be the mental space, the way we think about things, the way we think about our problems. So that might be something that you're having to kind of grapple with. Is the problem that you're facing actually the problem, or is it more about the way that I'm thinking about the problem? Now, the ruler of the full moon is Saturn in the eighth. So that's the house of, if we're talking just about pure work and obligations, maybe there's that realization that I just have to do what I have to do to get myself through, to pay my bills, pay off debt, whatever the case may be. It may also be that realization that I have to face some stuff within in order to be able to think about a problem differently, or rewire my mental programming. So that could be the mental programming around money. It could be the mental programming around, health and well-being. It could be the mental programming around just the way that you think about things. Also, another note that I've written down here for you is it could also loosely be about relationship energy too, because the full moon ruler, Saturn, is basically making a beeline for your relationship house again, the seventh, and eclipses will be coming through there. So, in some ways, it might be fix one problem and you'll fix a whole lot more problems than what you might think you're fixing just on the surface. So, I feel that there's probably just a lot but beneath the surface that can be really addressed now. So, sometimes you just fix one small little thing and it just has this really powerful ricochet effect that can be, rather life changing. Okay, Libra. So, Libra is the full moon of having some fun, enjoying yourself, enjoying some of the fruits of your labor. The fifth house reminds me of what do you want to do when the bills are paid, the jobs are done, and why do you even work as hard as you're working anyway? Yeah, maybe it is about going out for drinks. Maybe it's about having some romance, spending more quality time with children if you have them or there's little people in your life. Maybe it's about just yeah, hobbies. No one has hobbies anymore. It's all monetized or highlight reels on Instagram. Like, what do you do just that gives you that pure shot of fun, enjoyment, inner child stuff? So, this is a really interesting full moon because the more fun you have, the more joy and the more energy and the more radiance you can share with others. Look at it this way. You've got the ruling planet of this full moon, Saturn, in the seventh house. So that is a very busy house. And then you've also got the station of Mercury in the 11th house, a very busy house as far as other people are. And now you've got Mars in your first house. So you're ready to kind of make things happen, take charge of situations, do the thing that maybe you've been trying to do for some time right now. Um, there's just so much coming through, and it might be the company you're keeping, the projects you're working on, whether it is for fun, whether it's your personal life or professional life. It's all going to be of really great benefit to your career, your working life, and your overall life direction. So, um, it's it's sort of this energy of rubbing shoulders with the right people. It's not always what you know, but whom you know is going to be what really can sort of move that proverbial needle in your professional life. Now, first house Mars, go after what you need, okay? But there might be a little bit of, what do I need? What do I want? Who is the right person? Who is not the right person? Whether it's to team up professionally or personally, it's trying to find that happy medium or that balance between boundaries and boundarylessness, trust and letting go, feeling rigid, but then going with the flow. Um, it is almost this idea that all will be revealed in due time, and that time is not too long, with Mercury at that station degree. So it is kind of, go after what you want with Mars in your first house, chase those relationship goals, whether those are professional partnerships, personal partnerships, but also leave some wiggle room for whether it's just surrendering to whatever the situation presents, that someone or something may not be quite whom what you thought they might have been, but then you might find that they could be so much more than what you thought they would be as well. So the Saturn Neptune stuff is definitely going to be an interesting dynamic for you. But the next 7 weeks is really about you sort of figuring out what balance looks like for you and you know going after this, going after that. But if you kind of, it all emanates from light, it emanates from the idea is if I'm having fun, if I'm enjoying myself, if I'm coming from this place of joy, then everything will work out, and then somehow you will just lose the people, the connections who are not coming from that same energy, if that makes sense. But it's a fun time, hobbies, children, joy, other people, friendships. There may be some confusion in the mix, some shadows and fog, but just keep pushing for joy with Mars in your first house. So next astro cab off the rank is Scorpio. I was going to say Sagittarius, but can't forget about Scorpio. Alrighty, so Scorpio risings will have this full moon in their home zone. So it's a very foundational full moon in that sense. So, full moon in the fourth house, uh, home living situation, whether you're buying, selling real estate, whether you have flatmate, housemate situations. And then the ruler of that full moon is in your sixth house. So there's this sense that, maybe you're having to work harder to pay for the home you want. Maybe a housemate has exited and now you're left with a little bit more of an obligation or something of that nature there. There's this sense with Saturn in the sixth that there is a lot of energy coming through where you're going to have to work hard. It's a grind, but Saturn in the sixth house has a bit of a workaholic tendency. So you could kind of get lost in the work, lost in the obligations. But when you can remember what you're doing it for, so whether it's to set a firm foundation in your life, let's just say, you're 23 and you want to create something, and it doesn't even have to do with real estate per se or a family situation per se, but securing a firm foundation. Those foundations could be financial, in terms of, where you live. It can also be about who you are and what you want to do and be in the world. So the Mars Saturn dynamic, it is, Mars is in your 12th house. That's your ruler. So it can be about some of the mental disturbances, mental anguish, that mental churning, Mars being a malefic sign in the house of problems, but the problems we can't see. So sometimes we just have to double down on doing the thing, and then the problems we can't see um, sort themselves out. So it's an interesting dynamic here because there's also so much that's going well for you with the benefics in the ninth house. So the living situation might be something to do with an international living situation. Maybe you're traveling and the home zone isn't, in its normal situation. The malefics across the 6th and the 12th, so it's kind of similar to Taurus rising. Again, it's these problems that, dealing with what you can deal with. And then there's the problems that might take a little bit longer to deal with. So if you're stressed, if you're worried, if you're not sleeping well, Mars in the 12th house can do that. Sometimes it's just dealing with what you can deal with on a practical, grounded basis. Just the only way to get through is to get through in some way, shape, or form. So it might be a little bit of a slog around this full moon period. But then once we come to next week, once Mercury stations direct, the benefics come together, all the tension underneath, maybe in your private life or what's not quite so visible or seen, everything that you've been grinding through will have its outer worldly benefit, whether it's from a professional standpoint, a traveling standpoint. Maybe you get to that point where you can kind of, that's the reason why I had to go all through this. Now I've got these benefic blessings in my ninth house. So hopefully that helps you a little bit if you are if you're a Scorpio or a Scorpio rising. Now, if we move along to Sagittarius, we have the full moon for you is in the third house. If you've seen my work before, you probably know I'm a bit of a fan of the third house. It's a little bit overlooked. Now, a full moon here can help you really reinvigorate some of your daily routines and habits, but something that kind of gives it meaning. It might be just as simple as having that coffee in the morning and just soaking it up in a special way. Maybe you're listening to the birds outside, or maybe you want to make more time in your life to read things that uplift you, things that inspire you, as opposed to just scrolling reels on Instagram. So, routines with meaning and purpose are going to be really important for you with this particular um, lunation. Now, when we think about your ascendant ruler, which is Jupiter, it's in a fantastic position right now. It's exalted in its own sign, it's with Venus, but it's hidden from view. So you may not be quite feeling the benefit of Jupiter in Cancer in the most obvious of ways. You might be having to work quite hard to provide, to whether it's debt, whether it's mortgages, whether it's paying off debt, whether it's some of the emotional entanglements. There's a chance here to really understand yourself better through your routines, rituals, maybe even reprogramming some of your worldview, the way you see life, new goals around your hopes and your aspirations. And the key to all of this might be through just having fun, committing to joy. Sometimes life just gets so busy and the timelines have been really busy recently where you just sort of think, when was the last time I just did something because I want to? So committing to joy, committing to an ideal, committing to a hobby or a former dream can really help you get back to a sense of meaning and purpose on a daily basis. Because sometimes we just, especially with Sag rising, always big picture, big, 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 we're kind of looking for the big wins in life, the big trip, the big moves, the big blessings, the big wins. But often it's the little things that have that compounding effect over time. So it might be children, might be either the key here. Maybe you're not having enough fun, whether it's children you have or even your inner child, doing something for no other reason than just because you want to. Maybe it's also about taking action with friends. Maybe part of that is organizing a get together, organizing a catch up, rather than saying, oh, yeah, we should catch up sometime. It's actually doing it. So it might also be about overcoming some of your limitations around actually achieving your hopes and dreams. When you do things on the daily and that compounded effect, that's where those benefits and blessings can really come through for you. I'm just sorry, wrong button there. We'll come back to this one here. We'll clear off those drawings and then we will move on to Capricorn. Okay, so a Capricorn rising, we have the full moon for you. This is kind of an all about money full moon for Capricorn rising. So money, finances, cash flow, income, sustenance, and support. So you could have a very healthy bank balance, but still feel unsupported in the world. And so, what you want to ask yourself under this full moon, am I getting access to the support that I need? And this might be the support that you need through family, through your living situation, through maybe reassessing the foundational parts of your life. Your relationships look really great. I mean, you've got Jupiter and Venus in your relationship sector. So those things might be really quite okay for you. But with your ruling planet and the ruler of the full moon in the fourth house, this feels very much to me like foundational stuff, laying the foundation for different life directions. Maybe it's professional directions. Maybe you're having to make some financial moves that support your family. Maybe you're having to make some professional moves that support your family. Maybe you're having to take a risk on a dream that you've long held. You've got Neptune with the full moon ruler. You've got Neptune with your ascendant ruler. Are you stuck in this place of kind of hoping and praying, but not really doing anything about it? That's generally not what Capricorn does, but that's the possibility. So with Mars coming through the top of your chart, it's time to make a bold move. Take some action on those dreams, whatever those dreams are. Do you want to add another investment property to your portfolio? Do you just need to spend more time with your family? Maybe you need to redefine your place or position within family, or within just what your foundation of life looks like, and sort of really rethinking that. Maybe your family situation has changed somewhat with Saturn and Neptune coming through. And then you have to think to yourself, well, where do I position myself in this? And so it might be just about you doing what you have to do and then figuring out some of these finer details out later. So it's a bit more of an inner cycle for Capricorn because it's all happening sort of in the fourth and the second. So there is this energy about money and living situation. So, and then what action are you taking in the outer world in order to kind of get the life that you want, maybe make the financial moves you want, or maybe just feeling more secure. Pluto moving through the second house can feel that, everything that did mean finances and support for you are undergoing a process of change. And then you're having to figure out how to navigate that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of financial energy here. And of course, career, life direction, and living situation. So obviously, those are, the big things in life, right? Work, home, money. So those are going to be very illuminated under this lunation. Now, for Aquarius rising, it's all about you right now with this full moon happening in your sign. So, the ruling planet of this full moon is in the third house for you, but it's going to be slowly moving back into the second. But for now, it's really about developing your curiosity. You've got Pluto in your second or your first house right now. So life might feel like the layers are getting stripped back. You might have found yourself in a position, positive, negative, or just a feeling that things are really fundamentally changing for you, and they are. And so, this is an opportunity to get curious about that, to learn more about yourself. Maybe you've had a dream to write, to learn, to study, maybe even to travel. You've got Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune here from the ninth. So, this is, how do you really change things? How do you really change who you are and who you're becoming with Pluto in your first house? Well, you either learn something or you embark upon an experience, literal or metaphorical, that can really be that point in your life where, well, there was, that fork in the road, the BC and the AD idea again. So if you're feeling a little bit stuck, this might be, Mars kind of grinding through the ninth house and opposing Saturn. Well, change the way you think, change the way you're learning, look at life differently. Is there a perspective that I haven't explored yet? Is there a point of view I haven't explored yet? Maybe you're just hungry to travel, hungry to do something. Mars moving through the ninth house is really going to make you kind of hungry for something more and something bigger. So it might be about leaning into the idea of travel, plan a trip, readjust your bucket list. And with Pluto coming through your first house, it's also okay to no longer want what you once did and then also want for new things. Seek experiences that reshape your worldview. Have conversations and connections, read material online that is a different point of view from the one that you're seeing. It's almost the idea of getting outside your algorithm a little bit. And it's also about grounding yourself in experiences that are going to really transform you and bring you closer to living life with greater meaning and purpose rather than Aquarius just kind of rebelling against everything or seeking to change everything. It's like, well, actually, what gives me meaning and purpose? It might be through conversations that you have with somebody else, or, um, the Mercury situation as it stations direct next week. It might be a conversation that you've had with someone, a connection you've made with someone that could be that key catalyst that makes all of that happen for you. But there's this relationship component there, but then, of course, the meaning and purpose. So it might even just be as simple as redefining what does relationships mean for me in my life. Now, last but most certainly not least is Pisces. Pisces rising. So this full moon is taking place in the 12th house. So the energy for all intents and purposes is not particularly strong here. You might feel it, you might not, because the 12th house is a very shadowy and hidden place. It's kind of spotlighting those corners of the mind that we don't always go to. We kind of put in a box and we ignore. Now, if we think about the ruling planet of that is currently in your second house. So there could be something about denying a financial situation. Maybe you're stressed about a financial situation. Maybe you're stressed about maybe a lack of support that you're feeling. Or with Saturn in your second house, maybe you're feeling like you have to tick certain boxes and reach certain benchmarks, but you feel maybe overwhelmed or confused about how you're going to get that. Maybe you're stressed that there's not going to be enough. Maybe you're stressed that there's too much of something or other. Maybe this is going to inspire you about new ideas to create wealth. We've got Mars in the eighth house. It's going to motivate you to take action towards the bigger picture of things. We've got Mercury. When I say the bigger picture of things, I mean the longer term financial stuff. We've got Mercury in the sixth house. So this may be about um, are you in this time for money situation and it's not really making bank for you? So there could be some new ideas that get generated, new confidence that comes through about what are you stressed about. And, sometimes we can get ourselves in this feedback loop of stress and of worry and anxiety. But really, all we really need to do is take a step. We need to take action. We need to sort of face that thing that we might be a little afraid to face. So there's some new downloads here, with the full moon in Aquarius. There's a new light being shone into the 12th house. And so there could be new ideas, new innovations, new downloads that come through that can help you commit to that financial goal, help you think differently about things in that nature. It could also help you face some realities. You might sort of think, well, short term, I'm not in the situation I would prefer to be, but in the long term, if I do XYZ thing, I can commit to that dream and then get to where I need to be. Keep in mind that Saturn is coming back to your sign. It'll be there in just a few weeks' time. Eclipses are going to come back into your, or, going to happen in your sign. So there is a sense of what you do, what you commit to, rather than avoid or deny, is going to be the secret to your success with this full moon. So this full moon, I think, is going to help you intuit what you're trying to logically think about. So if you have a dream or you're on a walk or you're out in nature and just this idea comes in, explore it, think about it, ask yourself, is that a manageable thing? Can I do it? What's blocking me? Is that actually a block or is it a perceived block? So it is kind of this almost a rewiring that's coming through here for you. And this could also be about just your ability to attract abundance, to attract support, to attract the things that you need. It's almost as though don't let your fears, your phobias, your perceptions of what problems are be the problem. Overcome them, commit to them, and make stuff happen for yourself. You've also got benefics here in very joyful position. So, if there is this little hint of worry or concern, don't let it drag you down. There's this idea here with your ruling planet, Jupiter, in the house of joy. The solution to all your problems will emanate from more joy, more happiness, more fun. You're not going to solve a problem from worrying about it, stressing about it, or aging yourself about it. Go out and have fun. Enjoy life a little bit, and then that's where the road will rise up to meet you. So there we have it. It's such a juicy period of time. I hope these horoscopes have helped you. Of course, if you would like more information about the astrology of the current moment, the Golden Circle is the place to be for that. Of course, I'm always available for readings if you would like more personal insights about this full moon and the astrology of the moment, and of course, the astrology for the rest of 2025. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed putting it together for you, and I'll catch you in the next episode. See you later.